We're a team we can spell good for the Newman PTC. My name is Chris, and I'm joined by the lovely Lynn and handsome Rob.
All right.
So anyway, round 3, here we go. The first word is sandal, S-A-N-D-A-L.
All right.
Phew. This one is Yeti. Yeti. Boards up, please. Y-E-T-I.
What?
So we can spell not so good.
Oops.
On either side, you can ask them for help, but I wouldn't. All right.
All right, so I may not be able to spell the name of your street, but I do know what your house is worth. Welcome to What's My House Worth? I am one of the Robs you just saw there on the screen. This is Ryan McDonald. We're with Hawthorne Properties and also Hawthorne Builders. We have brokerage services and we build homes, and we have a special thanks for the folks here for putting that together. Much obliged.
Yeah, I'm sure you loved that little clip, but the rest of us didn't.
It was fun. It was a fun night, a short night, but a fun night. So let's just dive right in. We're going to do what we always do on the show and talk about the previous month's sales data right here in Needham. For this show, it's April. We're going to be examining a busy month, Ryan, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think we shook off the rather slow closing months of February and March, and we banged out 25 sales in April.
Well, we've been talking a lot about how it's a red-hot market, and the numbers haven't quite shown it yet. I feel like when you look at April, they are showing it. Total, if we look at the sales data here, 25 sales is the first thing on the list. Ryan, what else do you see as you look at it?
We see a decline in both our average list prices and average sale prices, and I think this is very easily explainable just by the sales mix. So when we have fewer sales, like in March, we only had 13 sales, and they were, they kind of gravitated towards the top end of the market, so our average sale list was over $1 million.
Right.
Now here we are back down in the 8s, which is where we typically see when we have high volume, we have more of a property mix, and there's a lot of different types of homes being sold.
True, but of the 25 homes that sold, just 4 of them sold for over $1 million. I feel like that's lower than normal.
Yeah, and it speaks to some new inventory that's come on and then since come off. So I think it's a healthy spring, it's a healthy mix in April, and it's going to be exciting to take you through it all. Yep. The sales price as a percentage of list, strong at 100% of list and 99.6%
of original
list, which is fantastic, which means that to me speaks volumes in terms of the strength of the market. We're putting things on, you're putting them on at the right price, and they're moving. The average days on market, 27. That's less than a month. That's an incredibly quick sales cycle. So I think that's another indication of a strong market. And then that's down from 92 days in the prior month. And the big number that we always like to look at, average sale price per square foot, $384, Rob.
It's crazy.
That is bananas.
That's a huge number.
And that's up from $343 last month. So that's an incredibly strong number. Again, healthy, spring, Needham, all those things go together.
Well, we talked about how leading up to this month, the numbers haven't really shown just how hot of a market it is. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the previous 6 months sales data. We were hovering around that 11, 12, 13 range for a few months, but there's the pop that we're talking about, up to 25, the second highest of the 6 months you see there.
Yeah, topped only by December. We know all those closing they try to sneak in by year's end.
That's right, and I think May is going to be right there with it. I don't think we're going to be back down that 11, 12, 13 range for quite a while. April historical sales shows us how this April stacks up with the Aprils of yesterday, and it seems to be right about where it should be, Ryan, right?
Yep, I think this is indicative of the activity and the enthusiasm that we've seen in the marketplace for the last couple of weeks and a couple of months, really. And it's a good look. It's a good year as opposed to the last few years. It's very healthy. 25, good number. I like it.
I like it as well. I also like a lot of the houses that sold in April, so let's start to take a look at them. We're going to start with the lowest sales price and slowly but surely work our way up to the big seller. So with this in mind, we start on 12 Ledge Street. This looks like it was a development project, Ryan, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, this was a flip. This house was purchased for $360,000 in October of 2013, and then it sells for $477 in April. So I maybe it wasn't, it probably didn't knock the developer's socks off as far as the project goes, but they put together a nice little house here. Mm-hmm. Ledge Street, for those that aren't aware, is kind of on a quiet dead-end street, cul-de-sac, if you will, that's back behind off Reservoir, that's near Echo Bridge and the Hemlock Gorge, right by Newton.
Yes.
So not a spot that we see a ton of flips, but it is in town one of the few spots you can really do it.
A good commuter location.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, one thing that caught my attention on this was that it said it's as is, which you don't typically see for a house that's just been developed. Usually the as is moniker is something that you see on a house that needs a lot of work or hasn't had a lot of work for quite some time. So it almost seemed like a preemptive strike from the developer maybe to be like, hey,
I'm done.
It's not going to be perfect, and whatever's not right is not right, and that's that.
Yeah, it's an interesting observation.
Yeah, and a strategy as well. I also like the strategy of the odd sales price, and we're going to see that with our next one. 11 Wellesley Avenue, and I think we're in uncharted territory with the extra penny. Have we seen that before?
No, we usually don't carry out to the decimal points.
I would have loved to have been there for that negotiation.
Right, who got that $1.01?
I mean, you get 2.5% of that, it adds up.
Right.
That extra penny.
That's an excellent point.
So it sells for just over $500,000 on the market for $5.25. Big piece of land.
Yeah, over 20,000 square foot lot. This one is also across from St. Mary's Cemetery, so you never know how that's necessarily going to play out. It was marketed as both, hey, this is a house that's got some nice features, in-law quarters, etc. Also marketed as, hey, someone might want to come in here and do a development project here, whether it's just fixing up the house that's there or doing an expansion, because like Rob said, it's a big lot.
Yeah, lots of possibilities when you have that much square footage to work with. 8 Sachem Road is next up on our list, and you're talking about a location that's really tucked in tight there on the corner basically of 128 and Highland Ave.
Yeah, and this one went under agreement 3 times, twice with a kick-out clause. So I thought maybe it was a good opportunity to maybe explain a little bit about what that is. And the kick-out clause is usually when the buyers have contingencies that the seller is maybe not totally comfortable with. So they add in this kick-out clause that enables them to continue to market the property and to perhaps get an offer that's better, but either allow them to then kick the buyer out, or often what goes hand in hand with it is a right of first refusal. So with the kick-out clause / right of first refusal, if the seller is able to obtain another offer, they can take it to the original buyer and say, hey, we're going to accept this unless you are able to meet it, and meeting it usually means eliminating whatever contingencies still remain.
Right, interesting.
So this one
Good
had that
lesson
a couple
there,
of
Ryan.
times here.
Also, it had on there, ask the listing agent about the widening of Highland Avenue. Do we know anything about that?
No, I was going to ask the listing agent about that.
Yeah, I wanted to as well, but I have a feeling that Highland Avenue might be widening.
That's breaking news.
That is breaking news. And it can only be found on MLS on a listing sheet of a house that's already sold. 153 Evelyn Road is next up, and I would call this area, I'm starting to get a little bit of an up-and-coming feel to this location.
Can we throw up and coming out there?
Yeah, I think we can. I mean, between Yale and some new construction tucked away in there, and it's not a bad spot, convenient to 128, but it's on a quiet street.
Right near Elliott.
And I think that this might start a string for us of some land sales. Do we know if this was a land sale?
I have the same thing in my notes. I don't know. I mean, it has all the signs pointing towards a land sale. The agent for the buyer being one of them. The size of the house, the property is primed for redevelopment, being only 1,000 square foot house. But again, like Rob said, this could be an up and coming neighborhood. Maybe we should put our creative hats on and come up with a nickname for this neighborhood.
Oh.
If you live in the neighborhood and it does have a nickname, like the newly crowned Olin Woods, which I think is great.
Or the stepladder streets.
The stepladder streets, originating right here on the show.
Thank you.
Feel free to call in. We'll make sure the next time there's a house on there that we get it the proper publication.
Right, or better yet, if you
And
don't
credit.
live in the neighborhood and you have a suggestion on what to call that neighborhood, we'll take those calls as well.
Even better.
52 Pilgrim Road.
In
Speaking of
Olin
Olin
Woods,
Woods,
there you
although
go.
are we sure it's Olin Woods?
You got to include Pilgrim.
Okay. You can't,
I would think.
But you can't drive a car. Well, all right. I mean, into Olin Woods by way of Pilgrim.
True. Fair enough.
All right. We're just not sure. We're still feeling our way.
So the outskirts of Olin Woods?
I don't know. We'll say it's Olin Woods.
All right.
Land sale?
I think so.
And a little bit of a trickier land sale due to the fact that you have some water there running along the back of that property line.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a trickier process if you want to build new. In fact, special permit if you wanted to have a different foundation than the one that's already existing.
It'll add some time to the process. It'll add some cost, and it'll involve the Conservation Commission.
Right. Perhaps, which might explain why it sold for, still $650 is still a good number even if you don't have to do that.
I agree.
74 Hillcrest Road is next up on the list, and when I look at this listing sheet, I see some red writing. Ryan,
do.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, this is my deal of the month for the seller, because I think this is a good number for this house. It's 1,300 square feet, just over 1,300 square feet. It's a bungalow. It's on Hillcrest. It's on the hill, the hill part of Hillcrest, and it's a small lot. I mean, it's just about a 7,000 square foot lot. So it's when you're talking about almost the mid sixes. It seems like a lot for this property, and especially when you dig a little deeper and you look at a house that's under 14,000 square feet on a lot this size, and you have to go back well beyond 3 years if you can even find one at all for a home that's sold for this much. In fact, the next highest is $30,000 less than this.
Right.
So I think what we see here, and it's not totally uncommon. It's when you're a seller and you catch a buyer that is looking for a certain thing. They've been looking. It's the neighborhood that they want to be in. In this case, these folks are going to do some substantial renovations to this home. They had a plan in place. They had a budget. They were ready to go. And they're saying, you know what, if we have to get a deal done, if we have to pay a little bit more and it works for us, then it works out. So it's still a good deal for the seller, but monetarily wise, maybe not so much for the buyer, but big picture wise, evidently it is.
Right, and once they put that money into the house, then what is it worth? And maybe at the end of
Exactly.
the process, it's not such a bad buy.
Right, that's a great point.
It reminds me of 70 Hillcrest, similar lot, but it sold 3 years prior, a little bit more, for $4.25. And so it just goes to show you what's been going on in this market. 21 Melrose is next up on the list. This is a land sale, correct?
Yes.
And a good location, corner lot, 10,000 square feet. Restricts you a little bit on what you can do from a development standpoint because it is a corner lot, but certainly the location is a desirable one.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the corner of Upland and Melrose. It's steps from Mitchell. You can walk to the high school. You can walk to town. You can walk to Needham Heights. It's a good location.
Those are a lot of must-haves you
Yeah.
just reeled off there. Oh, yeah, right there on the listing sheet.
There were some must-haves, but I mean, at the end of the day, the biggest must-have was the location.
Yeah, because a lot of those must-haves must go
Right.
when they take the house down.
Yep.
29 Tanglewood is next up on our list, as we are also fairly close to town, but from a different area.
Yeah, I think this is, as we talked about, this is an underrated walk-to-town location.
And I think this is a good purchase too. I mean, on paper, I like the looks of this house. 715. It's
Plus, there's some charity going on there too, isn't there?
Is that right?
Well, I heard there's some gifting.
Oh, very nice.
The seller is gifting the washer, the dryer, and the refrigerator.
Yeah, look at that. That's all thrown in.
As
That's
a
nice
friendly way
them.
of saying we're including something that's already there.
Right, I know. It's creative. I wonder if it gave the buyer a warm tingling.
You feel a lot better about getting somebody's washing machine.
Well, no, it's better yet when you have your inspection and then the buyer starts asking for things. The seller can be like, "Whoa, we just gifted you all this, and you're gonna start asking for things?"
Yeah. Let's draw a line in the sand right there.
Kitchen updated in this house. The baths didn't look necessarily updated, but clean. I like that. 2.5 baths. It's a good number.
Good.
In that kind of 7 range, we're big in the 7 range. I mean, it's the 7 range has been the story of the year. I don't, I know we're only
Sevens are the
in
new sixes.
Yeah, I mean, 433 Central Ave, sticking in those 7s, is next up. This one was on the market. I mean, compared to everything else that's been on the market or that sold in April, this one was on the market for eternity.
Right,
120 days.
120 days. Still got a pretty good number with respect to its list price. Central Ave, as you know, is Central Ave. It's a busy number. This house also abuts wetlands in the rear. I think it had some updates. It has a nice master bath. The hardscape out front is nice. There's some finished space in the basement that's included in that 2,400. But I mean, it's a good amount of square footage.
Okay,
In the low 7s.
I'm going to read you something that was on the listing sheet. I just want you to say either I like it or I don't like it.
Okay.
Okay, this is a quote. While this house sits on a well-traveled road, it means you will save thousands over the price of a similar home on a quieter street. Like it or don't like it?
I don't like it.
Okay.
I didn't notice that. I
Yeah.
didn't read that. But I don't love it. I don't like drawing attention to could be a perceived negative and trying to convince somebody that it's not. Let them come to that conclusion on their own.
Right. I mean, I don't mind it, but
yeah,
if those
well-
are the two choices, I'm not sure which direction I'd go. That's why I presented it to you that way. So
Okay.
thanks for playing along, right?
Yeah, no problem.
45 Plymouth Road is next up. You want to talk about homes on quieter streets? Here's one
Here you go.
on the coveted ladder streets, Ryan.
Yes. This one sold in 2010 for $603,000, and I know that partly because I was the guy that sold it. But one thing I wanted to give a little anecdote, which is showing a little gamesmanship that goes on in the real estate process, the sale process. Is there was something about this house that came up during the inspection, and the buyer through their agent was adamant about this needed to be corrected. This was a deal breaker, had to be done. No, all bets are off. So a concession was ultimately made by the seller.
A monetary one.
A monetary one, yeah. The offer to do the work was actually made. That was refused in exchange for a credit. And it was just interesting for me to go back in the house a few years later.
And was it done?
It was not done. So it was just
Right.
one of those things that when you're in a deal, everything's in play, and some things, can get can become important, and they're important maybe for other reasons. But it was just interesting for me to see how that played out.
So buyers are liars. Is that what you're saying?
Or maybe I wasn't good enough agent on the sales side.
That's more probable.
Yeah.
10 Lawrence Road is another house in a good location right here on the heels of Plymouth, not far away from Plymouth.
No.
But this is a road that I'm guessing many of our viewers don't know where Lawrence Road is because it's so tucked away.
Right, it's
right off of Washington Street.
Yeah.
Little private way. There's how many? I think four homes on
I think
it?
3 maybe.
Maybe 3.
Yeah.
But a great location. And this was a house that was in nice condition. Move
Right.
in.
Quaint.
It was.
They've been well cared for.
You know, it's funny. You see all these pictures of these homes, and they're all just buried in snow. You know? And you think about when you went back there,
Yeah.
it was like years. It felt like many years ago. Because, But it was a nice house, a Cape. It was 3 beds, 1.5 bath, but it's a great location. And it was one of these houses where you walk through it and you got the sense there was going to be a little bit of a bidding war on it.
Yeah, we knew immediately it was
Yeah.
underpriced.
And sure enough, it goes for $46,000 over list.
Yeah.
14 Barrett Street. 14 Barrett Street will always hold a place for me because to me it signaled the beginning of this spring market and what we were going to be seeing over the course of the spring. It came on January 23rd. I went to the first open house and I went on to Barrett and I ended up parking 5 doors down because the streets were lined with people for this open house and it was like, whoa. And that's when you kind of sensed that the 7s were the new 6s, right? And then that kind of started the string. It was that house, and then the next week was the Laurel one that went for $775. And so I feel like Barrett set the tone a little bit.
Good
Good job,
Barrett.
Barrett. Set the tone for the spring market and goes for $10,000 over list, and it was a nice house.
Yep.
And quiet street, good location, and the colors certainly were soft. 100 Mayflower Road is next up on the list as we stay in the 7 range. Again, something that kind of rode the tidal wave that was created by 14 Barrett.
The coattails, perhaps.
Oh, that's even better. Sells for $745 after going on the market for $725. This was kind of your classic colonial, 3 bedrooms up, the full bath up, the front to back living room on one side, the other side had the dining room and the kitchen. Olin Woods, which
This is in the heart of Olin Woods.
the aforementioned Olin Woods. Yes, there's no question about whether or not this house is in Olin Woods.
And this house was sold by the least talented speller on this panel.
Great observation. Thank you, Ryan, for that. 16 Surrey Lane is next up on the list, and I think we might see. Yep, there it is.
There it is.
Yeah, for the
Bang.
seller, Ryan.
Right.
For the seller.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Both of them for the seller this month.
Well, it's that kind of a market,
I
though. The
know,
sellers
I
are just
know.
doing so well
Yeah,
for themselves.
backflips.
And I just, if you kind of stack this up with the other homes that have been selling in the 7s, I walked through this house and, it's a good location. It's a quiet street. I get all those positive attributes. It's a good house, but considering it was, it felt a little bit dated in there. It wasn't a whole lot of space, and the condition it was in, the location. When it came on at $749, I thought to myself, it's overpriced. And sure enough, I look, and it's an out-of-town agent who's listing it. I'm like, oh, well, that explains it. And then it sells for $750. I'm like, how does that happen? I look at the buyer's agent. The buyer's agent was from out of town. But then maybe they both know what they're talking about, and I don't. Because how many people can be wrong?
Right.
So, I like the number. $750, I think you're selling it at just the right time.
Yeah, and I think it's just the two that we discussed prior to getting to Surrey. I mean, Mayflower
Right.
and Barrett. And you're handing somebody $750,000 and say, pick one of these. I think I'm picking one of the other two first.
I think
But
that's
they
well
were
said.
gone. They
I
weren't
would agree.
available.
Yeah, listen. 46, I mean, maybe Surrey should be thanking Mayflower and Barrett. I bet you it didn't.
No.
46 Sunset Road is
Surrey.
46 Sunset Road. When was the last time we had a 4-bathroom house selling the 7s? That has to be a first.
Could be.
If we'll try to get our graphics department to put something together before the end of the show that shows all the 4-bathroom homes that have sold over the last 12 months, but I'm guessing that's the low one.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, but just looking at it, I think this house did really well. And this has electric heat throughout. This needs to be updated. It has some good space, but still just under 2,000 square feet. And you look at it right next door, 50 Sunset. I mean, sold for $600 in
Right,
November. I mean,
right.
it's a smaller house, but not that much smaller.
I know. Comparable location.
Or a similar location.
Right.
But I mean, I think 46 Sunset is a candidate
Yeah.
for, hey, good job.
There's a lot of candidates this month. Sunset, of course, is right off of Central,
Cephalo.
dead end street. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Small street, but quiet.
Yeah. And it looks out over water.
That's right, or conservation land.
conservation.
Yeah. 6 Hancock Road is next up, and I like the looks of this
Okay.
house. You got your well, what's interesting is it's a 4-bedroom house, and it said on the listing sheet that 3 of the bedrooms were on the 2nd floor, but the 4th bedroom it said was on the 4th floor. I'm guessing that's a typo.
Possibly.
Yeah. So probably 4 bedrooms on the 2nd floor.
Otherwise, you'd see like a tower shooting up the
Yeah,
top.
you don't see many 4-level homes. 2-car garage and a good location.
Yep, minutes to all.
It is walk to all because it's located right where Nahoyden breaks off to
Rosemary.
Rosemary.
Yeah.
Correct. So you can go in really 2 different directions and
Sure.
get to 2 very popular locations.
Yeah, that's not bad.
So I like that listing.
Yeah. But what do you think about just blanket statement minutes to all? I
It's couldn't be
kinda-
vaguer.
Right, it's kind of
Right.
throwing in the towel a little bit.
A little bit.
A little teeny bit.
But listen, there's only a finite amount of space, and you can't list everything that it's close to.
And we're talking about it, so it worked.
Yes.
It was an attention grabber.
And it grabbed our attention.
Sure did.
227 Warren Street is next up on the list. And,
Great in-town location.
It's a great in-town location, and I feel like, for the rest of my life, I can't talk about 227 Warren without talking about 224 Warren.
Yeah.
Because they basically went on the exact same time, exact same time, right across the street from each other.
It was very busy on Warren Street.
And
Very
they both
busy.
listed in 7s, they both end up selling in the 8s.
Yep.
This one, the one thing that it caught my attention, I did not see the inside of it, but the fact that the master bedroom and bath were on the 3rd floor.
Yeah, and that's certainly not going to appeal to everybody. But oftentimes when you have the opportunity in that kind of space, you can do really nice things up there because it's using one space. You have views out all a bunch of different sides. It can be nice.
Yeah.
This one doesn't have a garage either, which I think is it's kind of thing that you may not value the importance of the garage until you don't have one.
That's right. You sound like somebody who once didn't have a garage. Is that
I have
true?
basically a very small garage. Yeah. I really would like a bigger one.
I sensed it. 46 Pilgrim Road. I don't know if we're in Olin Woods or not, but I know we are into the 8s. Originally listed for $839, it sells for $830. So this house has quite a history.
It does.
It sold in 05 for $790. It sells in 08 for $837.5.
That's the surprising one in my opinion.
Yeah, you think that's a high number for 08?
It's amazing that like all the other homes that we look at that have sold 4 or 5 years ago, and they're all people are really happy about what they're getting now. But the folks that bought it in 08 and then are turning around and selling it for less than they paid for it in 2014, I would say that's abnormal in this market.
I would agree with that. And it was on the market for a little while. It took it. I think
Well, they tried to sell it in 2013.
And I think what hurt it was the layout. It had a little bit of a choppy feel
Sure.
to it, and I would say by and large, if you asked a lot of people to walk through there, why was it not selling? I would say layout would probably be your number one answer on the board.
Yep.
6968 Brookline Street, is next up. This one sells for quite a bit over original list.
Sure did.
And we had a chance to see this house, busier street.
Yep.
And not quite a level lot. If you remember the backyard,
It's
kind
tiered
of
in the back,
sloped
yep.
right upward a little bit. But it had some addition that had taken place some time ago, and so it felt a little bit bigger. 2,600 square feet is nothing to sneeze at.
No, it isn't. It's a good size. It's an expanded cape. You have a nice master suite addition. Below it was a nice like a dining room, and it had high ceilings. It was nicely done. The kitchen's been updated, finished lower level, nice built-ins in the mudroom. So I mean, there was a lot put into this house that I think helped it overcome the busyness of Brookline, and it got you're talking about that much over asking for it's an expanded cape, fellas.
Yeah.
That's a good deal.
I wonder how many offers they got. Probably quite a few.
I would say so.
54 Whitman Road, a little bit more of a quiet location, right?
Very quiet. This house
Off the
actually
beaten path?
is going to be torn down.
You got some insider information, sounds like. Talk to me.
Yeah, I think it's when you're going to see a Hawthorne builder sign in front of it. It is like some clients that have hired us to build them a home there. So this is a land sale. It's a beautiful lot. It's a very quiet on the outskirts as you're heading up Charles River away from town. This is should be an interesting project. Going to be a really well-designed house.
85 Clark Road is next up, and a location right next to Wellesley. This looks like a nice house. I
Yep.
like the look of this house. Really well done on the inside, updated. It's a good number.
Yeah, another
2,600 square feet, right?
for an
at
expanded
Brookline.
cape, and this one is well into the nines, and that speaks to it's a big lot. It's 13,000 square feet. It's been well updated, nicely finished. The one thing I don't know if you noticed, the master bedroom is actually you can tunnel through the closet and go into the bedroom the new bedroom that's over the garage.
Well,
So that's an interesting feature.
you don't see that very often.
No. You don't usually tunnel through rooms on the broker tour either, but I couldn't help myself.
Good for you. That's why you're one of the best in the business. 32 Elmwood Road. This is a house that you and I both had a look at, and I think we both quickly sensed, as well as a lot of other people who were walking through, that it was underpriced. Sure enough, the market spoke, Ryan.
Yep.
And when the market speaks, it doesn't fool around. This one sells for $61,000 over ask. 26 Alfreton Road, as we continue to climb above the $1 million barrier, is next up. It's listed for $1,299. Sells for $1,299. This is a new construction home in a Walk to Heights location.
Yeah, I mean, when it says near all sorts of amenities, it's, you're talking about steps from Trader Joe's, from the Heights train station, Starbucks, all of that part of town blue. It's a good little spot, quiet street.
Yeah, quiet. I mean, you can't walk very far before it's not quiet anymore.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But it's a good location.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have a problem with that
I'm
statement?
just working it out.
Yeah, too many syllables
There's a
for you?
lot- There's a lot going on in that statement.
Yeah, it's deep. We
All
dig
right.
a little bit deeper here.
Yeah, why not? I mean,
But we know that street well. Some great people. That's a wonderful neighborhood. 80 Rolling Lane, more new construction.
I notice you don't have very much written down.
Well,
I don't either. In fairness to both of us, neither one of us set foot into Rolling Lane.
well that and I didn't prepare very well. If we're being honest, Ryan. Thank you for pointing that out.
I mean, it's 4,100 square feet. You got 4 beds, 4.5 baths. In the 1.3s. I mean, the 1.3s are a very popular price point right now. Rolling Lane is, excuse me, as you're heading up Forest and you're going towards Wellesley near the Country Club. That's your location there. So, what else can we say about that one?
Yeah, we can't say much, but we can say quite a bit about 783 Webster Street, because this is a house that first of all, it's the big seller.
It is.
And it's not your typical, because
Nope.
it's not new construction, but it feels mostly new
Right.
as you walk through it, due to the all the things that were new from the studs in, such as the electrical, plumbing systems, and more. And great location, walk to town.
Definitely
Right.
walk to town. I mean,
Yeah.
this was a candidate for my deal of the month for the seller until
For the
it sold.
seller.
But then where it was priced, I was
Right.
in my mind all ready for it. But it sold 1,355 down from a list price of 1,575, and I think the 1,355 is a good number for the house. I really do. I thought it was a little overpriced when it went on the market. I think the market agreed, and some of the things that maybe contributed to that were when you're billing it as this is new, and they're even saying new from the studs in. I walked up to the second floor and I saw the old windows still in the house.
Yeah,
and
it
I'm
was
thinking to
surprising.
myself, if
Yeah.
I'm paying close to 1.6, I think I want, the expectation would be I would have new energy efficient windows. And there's some other things about, I think the finishings were beautiful. I think that it was very well executed, but it also came down, $200,000. So I mean, it's definitely, I think the market spoke.
The market speaks. Like I said, you price it too low, it sells for more. You price it too high, you got to work your way down, sometimes even lower than what it's worth, because it's been on the market for a little while. So that's the 25 homes that sold in the month of April. We are now going to take a sneak peek at the market snapshot, as we always do, right here on What's My House Worth. And very quickly, Ryan, as you look at this, what do you see?
See 77 active single-family homes, Rob. That's a lot. That's healthy. That's speaking to a lot of closings that we're going to be talking about in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
This time last month, we only had 55 active single families. We have 83 homes under agreement versus 64 last month, with an average listing price of 1,443. So I think we have an expectation of we have a lot to talk about in the next couple of months.
Yeah, that's exciting. It's good for business, good for ratings, certainly. If anybody wants to get a hold of us, Ryan, whether they have questions or they want to know what the value of their home is, how do they reach us?
The easiest thing to do is to call us at 781 707-6564.
There you go.
That's 781-707-6564. You can also send us an email. You can send it to rob.ryan@hawthornere.com.
That does it for this episode of What's My House Worth. We will see you all again very soon. Thank you.